Good morning, everyone. I've got two distinct parts to this video, so I'm not sure if I'm going to break it into two videos or what I'm going to do, but sorry if it gets long. I apologize. There's a little bit to know before I get into the meat of it. So first is pipelines. Pipelines are a really big deal in Canada because they bring jobs, they bring wealth. That wealth helps Canada. And you need hydrocarbons, right? You need oil and gas to run our country. Without hydrocarbons, we starve in the dark, okay? If you don't have, and freeze as well, right? If you can't heat your home, if you don't have natural gas to burn, right? The house is cold. If you don't have, and solar's not going to keep up because in the wintertime we have less sun. So hydrocarbons and Canada go hand in hand. They're necessary, and they will be for a long time. We're not even close to having the battery capacity or the infrastructure in place to charge vehicles, etc. All that stuff. We're not even close. Not even close. Infrastructure-wise, from a municipality standpoint, from a whole bunch of standpoints, regardless, pipelines are important. And here is the first in our groupings of stories. RCMP move in to clear northern BC gas pipeline blockade, 6 arrests made. Okay, so the Supreme Court has said this is going ahead, and the RCMP have clearance to remove people, and they were taking a light touch until yesterday, and they arrested them. So they gave them lots of chances to leave, and then yesterday they arrested them. Now, also, yesterday I saw this Bill Morneau interview. This was 5:21 p.m. And he's talking about the Kinder Morgan Trans Mountain Pipeline. And he makes this seem like the Kinder Morgan, the company that was going to build the Trans Mountain Pipeline, the Trans Mountain Twinning, walked away from Alberta. He's trying to blame them for this. And I just think it's so crazy. So I'm gonna read a timeline of what happened since Kinder Morgan applied to twin the pipeline in 2017. They planned to have it done by 2019, and that happened in 2013. And we're gonna go through all the stuff that happened between then and when the government bought the pipeline. Okay, so December 16, 2013, an application is made to the National Energy Board, the NEB, to expand the Trans Mountain Pipeline. Construction is proposed to begin in 2017 with the aim of having the oil flow through the expansion by December 2019. And I scroll down, I'm not going to go through all of them, but I'm going to go through a lot of them because there's a lot of moving parts. It's important. Okay, January 27th, 2016, the federal Liberal government says pipeline projects such as the Trans Mountain will now be assessed in part on the greenhouse gas emissions produced in the extracting and processing of the oil they carry. Proponents will also be required to improve consultation with First Nations. May 17, 2016, almost 5 months later. Ottawa appoints a 3-member panel to conduct an environmental review of the Trans Mountain expansion project. This is the MO of the Liberal government. It takes 5 months to appoint a 3-member panel, right? Like, that's crazy. Back to the article. May 29th, 2016. Half a month later, NEB recommends approval of the pipeline subject to 157 conditions, concluding that it is in the public interest. November 29, 2016, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau sanctions the Trans Mountain expansion, part of a sweeping announcement that also saw approval of Enbridge's Line 3 pipeline replacement, but the end of its Northern Gateway project. January 11th, 2017, BC Premier Christy Clark announces her support for the project, saying Kinder Morgan has met 5 government conditions, including a revenue-sharing agreement worth up to $1 billion. May 15th, 2017, again, 5 months later, the Federal Court of Appeals grants Notley's government intervenor status in a lawsuit filed by municipalities and First Nations against the project. May 25, 2017, Kinder Morgan makes its final investment decision to proceed with the development, now estimated to cost $7.4 billion, subject to the successful public offering of Kinder Morgan Canada. May 29, 2017, the BC and NDP Greens agree to form a coalition to topple the Liberal Party, which won a minority government in an election earlier in the month. The parties agree to, quote, immediately employ every tool available to stop the Kinder Morgan project. May 30th, 2017, Kinder Morgan Canada debuts on the TSE, Toronto Stock Exchange, after a $1.75 billion public offering. June 29th, 2017, the BC Liberals lose a no-confidence vote, clearing the way for NDP leader John Horgan to become Premier. August 10th, 2017, the BC NDP government hires former Judge Thomas Berger to provide legal advice as it seeks intervenor status in the legal challenges against the project filed by municipalities and First Nations. The same thing that Notley had. October 26, 2017, Kinder Morgan Canada asks NEB to allow work to begin despite a failure to obtain municipal permits from the city of Burnaby. December 7, 2017, NEB allows Kinder Morgan Canada to bypass Burnaby bylaws. January 7th, 2018, Kinder Morgan Canada warns the Trans Mountain expansion project could be a year behind schedule. Shocking, right? Like, the reason I wanted to go through all the government changes is because the government coalesced around this issue to stop it from happening, right? So, and it's interesting that, I mean, that anybody was surprised that Kinder Morgan wanted out of this. Like, all of this risk, why would any business try and build there? It doesn't make any sense. 0 sense. You have no confidence in being able to get it done. If one level of government says you're good to go, 3 other levels of government say no, right? If the feds say yay, you would have an obstructionist government in Alberta at the time, Notley, and an obstruction government that formed specifically to stop this project, basically, right? Like, wild, isn't it? And no, I'm not surprised that Kinder Morgan backed out, but apparently Mr. Morneau is surprised. Okay. NEB establishes a process to resolve permitting issues between Kinder Morgan, Canada, and provincial and municipal authorities. Right. So even if the province was on board, the municipal guys aren't playing ball, right? So it's like, why would you do this? Why would you even try? It doesn't make sense. And any company looking to invest in Canada for this purpose is looking at this and going, well, it's going to cost billions of dollars. And basically the end game is hope to get bought out by the Canadian government. Unbelievable. Okay, back to this. BC government, January 30th, 2018, BC government moves to restrict any increase in diluted bitumen shipments until it conducts more spill response studies, a move that increases the uncertainty for Trans Mountain. This is interesting. The BC government is focused on spill response studies. Here's a report from a few days ago. Large flames burn after trail derailment near Saskatoon. A train derailed and caught fire southeast of Saskatoon near Guernsey Thursday morning. In the same area, another fiery derailment happened 2 months ago. Here's the article for that. Well, that talks about that. This was updated on February 7th, but it says the Reeve of Saskatchewan municipality, where 2 fiery train derailments have occurred in less than 2 months, says it's time for the federal government to look more seriously at pipelines to move oil. Yeah. Oil should not be put on rolling pipelines that can derail and blow up. It just seems irresponsible. Kind of like landing flights from Beijing. We'll get to that too. Okay, moving on to, where was I? Hold on. Okay, and here's BC grants interim injunction aimed at preventing anti-pipeline activists from protesting construction at 2 terminals in Burnaby. BC Supreme Court grants indefinite injunction preventing protesters from coming within 5 meters of 2 work sites of the project. That's March 2018. Scrolling down, March 27, 2018, City of Burnaby says it will file an appeal to the Supreme Court in connection with the Federal Court of Appeal ruling. April 8, 2018, Kinder Morgan Canada suspends non-essential spending on Trans Mountain expansion project and sets May 31st deadline to reach agreement with stakeholders. At this point, April 15, Trudeau flies to Ottawa in an unscheduled break from an overseas trip to accommodate the last-minute summit with Horgan and Notley, where he vowed the pipeline will be built. I mean, I remember reporting on all of this. April 26, 2018, Environment and Climate Change Minister Catherine McKenna published an open letter to the BC Environment Minister George Heyman outlining the steps, blah, blah, blah. April 26, the BC government files a reference question with the BC Court of Appeals seeking to affirm the province's right to protect it from the threat of a diluted bitumen spill as it tries to thwart the Trans Mountain pipeline expansion. Yeah. Oh my goodness. We wouldn't want oil spilled all over the place, right? Just blowing up tanker cars. That's fine. No problem. I bet Saskatchewan didn't get a chance to do blowing up tanker car studies before this happened because of this idiocy, right? May 16th, because they weren't getting anywhere with anybody, Finance Minister Bill Morneau announces the federal government was offering indemnity to help ease the political risk for any investors to ensure the project could proceed. Anybody want to invest in this? Anybody want to give us some money? No? Oh, why not? I wonder why. May 29th, Morneau announces the Canadian government will buy the Trans Mountain pipeline for $4.5 billion. Because, it doesn't matter about spending large amounts of taxpayer money and just kicking the can down the road and never getting the thing built. And now I think they're trying to make a deal or a case for the pipeline to be too expensive to actually build. So here's Bill Morneau talking about that.
Really, we got to think back to why we're here. We're here in this project because there was a lack of ability for the private sector to deliver. We had the
Conservatives blame that on your government.
Well, we had a Houston company that went back to Houston and basically abandoned Albertans and abandoned Alberta. And so we had to step in.
Did they abandon them? I mean, they were facing huge amounts of political uncertainty, right? You got a government in BC that's saying, we don't want this pipeline here. Lots of Indigenous communities saying we're willing to do what it takes to stop this. I mean, if you were running that private company, would you take on that risk?
Well, actually, you've pointed out perfectly. Those were the reasons. So absolutely, the political uncertainty was a reason. The need for robust Indigenous consultations was probably a reason. But however you look at it, what happened is a company wasn't able to do it. So we stepped in because we knew that we needed to have the backs of those Albertan workers. You know, really?
Yeah, no, I don't know if he believes what he's saying. Vasi Kapoulis didn't believe what he was saying. She said, no, hold on a second. And she kind of went through a couple of the points that I made here. But fundamentally, it was every level of government being obstructionist about this pipeline. And no sane company in their right mind would invest in Canada under these circumstances, sir. And you're the person, you and Justin Trudeau and your cabinet are the people who created these conditions in the first place. It's offensive to sit there and blame the company for not being able to get it built. They couldn't get it built because you set those conditions clearly. And it's, I mean, ridiculous. Here is another similar situation. Jason Kenney is talking about the Tech Frontier project. It says, with half the emissions intensity of the average oil sand project, Tech Frontier represents the path forward for the world's third largest oil reserves. It's important that Canada get it right and approve this project. Why Tech Frontier matters. So here's Jason Kenney talking about that, and I'm going to let him talk about it. Here we go.
From that asset that can also help us. We talk about the energy transition. We're also going through the demographic transition. We need to be able to pay our bills for our schools and hospitals, public health care, pensions and debts. And that's the kind of asset that allows us to do it. So finally, if the federal government says no to that, the response just won't just be very serious in Alberta, but I think it will be very serious in global capital markets, because it would send a message that companies can come to Canada and spend hundreds of millions of dollars and years, a decade in this case, walking through a regulatory process in a country that is supposed to represent the rule of law, and then an arbitrary political decision at the end of the process, without any transparency, can suddenly scuttle all of that? I think that would be a devastating message to send in terms of investor confidence at a time when we are struggling to attract foreign direct investment to the Canadian economy. So the response would be very challenging. I think this...
Very challenging. Very, very challenging. Especially when you consider the recent history. Kinder Morgan was scheduled to be twinned by 2019, December 2019, to have double the capacity. It was started in 2013, and by 2018, already the obstruction, the laws, the rules had been changed so many times, it had been so muddied that no sane company could invest. No sane business person looking at this would say that's a good case. Anybody with their head screwed on right looks at Texas and goes, yeah, I'll invest money there because you can actually get your product to market. You can't do it in Canada. It's not possible. Not possible. Not under this Liberal government. Unbelievable. Okay, I'm going to break it into two videos, so stay tuned. This one, I think, is just going to be called Pipelines. Thanks for watching, everybody. Check out CanadaPoly.com, CanadaReport.co, and have a wonderful, wonderful day. And tune in for the next one. I'm going to show you about our medical chief public health officer who's not giving us the right information. And when she does give us the correct information, it's like 2 weeks late, and that's problematic. Okay, thanks for watching, everybody. See you soon.